Hey everyone, welcome to the Equal Value Podcast. My name is Lisa. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit called Black, Brown, and Diverse Plant-Based People for Equity, also known as BBDPPE. You can find us at www.equalvalueforall.wordpress.com, and you can hit anywhere you see a donate button on that website if you want to donate to us. That money goes directly to giving people free food in the community. So just as an introduction for our first episode, I'm a plant-based person who comes from a position of equity. Today is our very first episode, and our very first guest is one of our very own BBDPPE Inc. board members, Mary C. What's up, Mary?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever podcast. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mary, so much for joining me today. I know that, we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And then once I started to do the podcast, I decided to do the podcast, which is like aligned with the organization. I was like, hey, does anybody want to come up, for the first episode, join me? And you were like one of the first ones. You're like, yeah, I'll do it. And, it's so funny because I knew that you would be that way because when we first met, you had such great energy. And I was like thinking to myself, like, watch, Mary's going to be like, yeah, I'll do it. And you were like the first one. So thank you so much for doing that. But and then so just to give everyone a little bit of background information, we met like I think it was like about 5 months ago at the Syracuse Veg Fest, and the board the secretary that I had for the organization I started, she had to step down, so I was looking for a new secretary, and I told you that when we met, and we kind of had a conversation then, and you were like, I got you, I remember. And so I was thinking, I actually even came back and was talking to people and saying, yeah, I met someone, she said she wants to be a board member because we really needed someone. But to be honest, I was kind of like, I don't really know if she's going to do it, because you know how people say things sometimes and then they're like, but they don't actually do it. Mm-hmm. But then you actually followed up and you contacted me and you were like, got on board. And so we've been kind of working together on this organization to give people free plant-based food ever since. But the one thing I kind of thought about with you being on this podcast was that we did it so fast. Like you kind of said a couple words about yourself, and then we just like voted you in. So I was thinking like for this first episode, we could do like a getting to know you episode. And then, I'll ask you some fun questions. We kind of play a game just to get to know you a little better, because you didn't really get that opportunity to be like, telling us all about yourself. Yeah.
I love that idea. Yeah, I kind of joined in. I moved up to like Central New York a couple of years ago, and I come from like an activism background and perspective. So I'm all about kind of just like, let's jump in and go. There's a lot of need. And I just love when I saw the little bits that I saw, and as well your energy, Lisa. And I was like, I have a good gut feeling about this. And then just kind of been jumping in ever since. So I think it'll be great to get to talk with you more, and also we get to know each other a little more. That'll be really great to hear more about kind of where everything could go.
Yeah, because we had like a great kind of like energy there. We were talking and stuff. And I mean, even though I didn't get to know like a lot about you, I did find out like some about you. I mean, you were there with your husband, I remember, and you were telling me all about your background being diverse, and that was one of the first things you said. Actually, you were like, I am a diverse plant-based person. That's the name of the organization. And then you were with your friends, I remember, and you were like, we're all roommates. And you had your baby with you. So how's everyone doing? How's like your baby and your husband and everything at home?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think it's such an important thing that we're all people first. And I think it's really cool that we had like a human connection when we started speaking, and a little bond. And I at the Veg Fest there, I was walking around with my partner and I, and we are just both kind of, trying to take care of each other in this kind of stressful times, but going along with, what our values are. So I have 2 dogs that I call my babies. I'm a dog mom. and lots of
Wait, was it a dog you had with you? But you know you have a baby, right?
No, no, I didn't have a baby. I bought my, it was outside, I believe, at the Syracuse Veg Fest. So I think I might have said that my baby's over there, but I think I might have been talking about my dog that my boyfriend was walking around with.
Oh
So
my God, it's so funny. You know why? Because I didn't see inside the stroller. I just saw the stroller. So I was like thinking you meant like an actual baby. But I didn't want you to ask you to bring it out if it was because it was cold that day. Like you're saying, it was outside and it was like chilly. I remember it was like super windy and everything. Oh my God, that is so funny. See, this is why it's good that we have conversations like this so we can clear everything up. Because I was kind of thinking like, oh, she has roommates, a husband, and a baby. Like that's interesting. Okay, well, I guess we can just go straight in and like so these questions are like they're not really out there, but they're kind of like unique. I try to look up some unique ones so we can have a little fun with it. Okay, so
yeah,
this
that
is your
sounds
first
great.
question. Okay, so the first one is what is something that most people like but you don't understand why?
I think that is a really good, fun question. It kind of makes you like do a little bit of self-reflection.
Yeah.
So I guess
Everything.
one thing that a lot of people like that I don't so much is is I guess it sounds kind of simple, but tea. I don't like the taste of tea. I feel like it's something that I like things to be a little more stronger and tastier, and I like things that are a little more have a little more feeling. So
Wow.
I was grocery shopping this morning, and that's why probably food is on my mind. And it's a thing that I've been like, maybe I should start. It's a nasty, cold central New York day today. And I had this image of like me sitting at home drinking tea, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna buy it and waste it because that is not my thing. Um, so I put it down.
Wow, that's funny. I'm kind of like that with coffee, so I'm the opposite. Like I would prefer tea over coffee. But understandable. Okay, so this is the next one. If you could have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, that is such a good question. And I could probably go in like a lot deeper. But my favorite guitar player is Joe Strummer from The Clash. And he passed away a few years ago. So I would love to be able to pick his brain in a fun way and also to kind of know a little deeper to know like what started him and what like got his passion moving and what's everything that documentaries don't talk about when they talk about historical figures. So I would love to have dinner and maybe sneak into a rock show with Joe Strummer.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, I always when I read that question, I thought about Jesus. Like, and I don't know why, but I was just like, there's so many questions about people wonder about what's accurate and what's not about religion. If you could have dinner with him, you could just ask him. Be like, yo, what happened? Like, okay. So here's the next one. What is your weirdest roommate or house guest story?
I love that question. I feel like everyone has a lot of those stories of kind of if they've been around. So like I went to school in Boston, I lived in New York City for a little while. I have been very fortunate to have lots of good roommate experiences, even finding some good roommates on Craigslist, which doesn't happen very much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it's almost like times have changed. And I don't know if that's just to do with personal space and COVID or trust in the internet, who knows?
Yeah.
But
The internet is crazy.
I
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely like a change in the way that we communicate, I think. And kind of people figuring out how to take advantage of some of those nuances. Um, and it's so easily to be done overall, technology. But to get back to your question, I had one roommate who was very Colombian, and he bought me very, very strong Colombian coffee. Um, Probably twice or maybe 3 times a day. And it felt rude to not enjoy that. And I would try to drink it, but um, I've never had such strong coffee in my life, and I could barely even have a couple sips.
Oh my
But
God.
I did not want to be rude. I was like building this rapport with a new roommate. So that was kind of my more recent funny ones, because we ended up actually being fine roommates for a long time. Um, but it was definitely a little bit
What?
of a culture shock when I had that at first.
At least you are nice about it. You could have just been like, I love this coffee and been, hurt his feelings or something. But so you were nice. That's good. Um, and okay, so next, what is the best place you've ever traveled to?
I would love to answer that, but I also want to ask you if you have had any strange or meaningful, interesting roommate situations. I think that could be a really fun question if you have any to comment.
Um, roommates. I've never really had roommates. That's the thing. I've always just kind of had my own apartments. Um, yeah, that one's difficult. I For me, just because I haven't really had roommates, I'm trying to think house guests. Um, I do not know. I'll have to think about that one and we'll come back to it. But I will answer some of these other questions too. That one's just hard because I haven't really had roommates. But
All right.
except for, unless you count like my sister or something when we shared the same room when we were kids. And I was always annoyed because she got the top bunk bed, but I was the youngest. And so I always wanted the top bunk bed. And I would be like the maddest child you ever saw because she was sleeping in the top bunk. And I remember just thinking, like, when I would look up at the top bunk, it would look like it was like sinking down in the middle. And I was like, not only is she in the top bunk, she's gonna like fall down and crush me. But so that's as far as roommates.
That's that's a good one. I think it shows where a little bit of your energy and spark comes from, having to battle it out all these years.
Yeah, I just always got the short end of the stick being the youngest. But anyway, okay, so oh yeah, the next one was what is the best place you've ever traveled to?
Oh, okay. I was very fortunate. I was able to do some traveling in my college, my senior year of college, and I did get to spend some time traveling different countries. And Croatia was actually probably the most interesting and one of the most fun places I've ever visited. And it was for a mix of seeing new kinds of music, getting to know new kinds of people, seeing like new kinds of art that I really never tapped into, like that, those kind of cultures and those kind of people and groups. And I learned a lot about Food Not Bombs there as well. And it's an organization I was keen on right away. And
Yeah.
even though I kind of was familiar with it, I got to kind of hear about that from like a different perspective. And just like the group of people who I met in Croatia often were so thankful and able to talk about their history because a lot of it was things being rebuilt after like a long kind of struggle in their history.
Mhm.
So that was one of my favorite trips.
So they have food not bombs even in Croatia? Because I've heard them here. They have a local
They
Czech. Mhm.
they do, yeah. They have Food Not Bombs is international, and
Oh,
all over the world.
oh, that's interesting. And so you mentioned music too. You sound like you're really into music. So are you a musician or?
I am, yeah. I play as well. I play music in a band. I play bass guitar in my most recent band. So, and I think local music is really important as well for like emotional growth, for like on a personal level, my own growth. And I think it's really important to like just brings everyone together.
Yeah, that's great. Well, maybe you can do a theme song for us or something. I was thinking about that because, a lot of podcasts have like maybe something at the beginning or just a couple words or something. I was like, that would be nice if we could have, a little something. So maybe one day we can talk about that too. Um, but so, and then I just want to segue a little bit also because you talked about some of the places that you've lived. And then even though we met in Syracuse, which I actually thought that you lived there, I don't know, for some reason, I guess I just made that up in my head. But then later you told me that you live in Ithaca, actually. So, so did you actually move from like New York to Ithaca? I know you said you came to New York for college, but so how did you end up in Ithaca, New York?
Yeah, that's a great question. I it would have been probably about 2 years ago now. Kind of my partner and I, we decided that we wanted to move up to um, the Syracuse, Ithaca area after my partner grew up in Syracuse, and then we visited Ithaca just to vacation. But we were from the Poughkeepsie area,
Mhm.
and right after, kind of a mix of things of life, of just kind of population growth in the area in Poughkeepsie, we were just happy to move out, and we always had such a really good experience with the Finger Lakes and Ithaca specifically that we moved up here about 2 years ago, and have some friends who work at different restaurants and work at different bookstores in the area, and they told us about the Veg Fest in Syracuse. So that's how we made our way up there, and go up there somewhat frequently, just to go to different stores or different restaurants.
Yeah.
And so we made it a point to go to the Syracuse Veg Fest where I met you.
Yeah, and actually, shout out to Syracuse Red Trust because when I was first getting the organization started, I was kind of going around and promoting it, and I ended up speaking to someone who organized the festival, and they were like right away, they were like, we have our Vet Trust coming up. Do you want a table? Do you want to exhibit? And they just gave that to me like free. They were like when they were making everyone else pay for it, so that was really a good look from them. You know what I mean? So I've been meaning to contact them. I want to keep them in mind because that really helped us out along the way because I wouldn't have met you, think about it, if I wasn't able to go there and exhibit at the festival. And they just did that, out of the kindness of their hearts. That was nice of them. Um, and then aside from that, so like getting back to Ithaca, the reason I thought of that also is because I'm actually originally I'm based in Rochester, New York, where I started the nonprofit, and we want to kind of take our mission and goals to problem areas, which there are many in Rochester and in New York State overall. People probably would be surprised to know, but so I'm actually in the Rochester, New York area, but I'm actually from closer to where you are. I'm from the Binghamton, Elmira area in southern New York, and
Oh,
I used to go when I was a kid. Yeah, that's actually closer to you. They're like probably like half hour, 40 minutes from Ithaca. And I remember my mom used to take me and my sisters to gosh, there was a park there. Oh, Stewart Park. She used to take us there when we were kids, just like on the weekend or something. We would go to that park. It was always really nice there. And
yeah.
then I know Cornell is there too. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm really familiar with Ithaca. Um, and actually grew up not far from there. Um, have you ever
It's
been
such
to
a
like
small world.
near, yeah. Have you ever
I
been like
have
near
not been
Binghamton?
fortunate to Um, New Binghamton, you're asking? Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to being such a connected music scene that I try to be a part of. Binghamton is, being a college town, and the way that music gets around. It's actually there's a good amount of live rock music that is coming out of Binghamton area right now. So I have been to some of the smaller bars and venues that are in Binghamton, and there's also I've been meaning to check out a couple of bookshops that are in there, because it's kind of a growing place for that. So I know PM Press is a bookstore that is kind of growing, and I've been able to stop by there and do a little book shopping. So I have a little bit of experience in in Binghamton, not as much in Rochester. I've been meaning to make my way up there, but have not had the pleasure to go up there yet.
Well, I don't know if it would be a pleasure. Hopefully, it would be when you get here. But they do have like a pretty big music scene. I will say that. You can get in touch with the right people, and they have something called a Fringe Festival in the summer where they feature a lot of new independent, artists and things like that. So you might want to try to look into something like that if you're ever interested. But Rochester, just to give you and everyone a little bit of education about New York State, because a lot of times when people talk about New York State or they say New York, they automatically think the city, like New York City, because it's the largest city and it has millions of people all in that one place. But New York is a huge state. So the five biggest cities in New York are New York City, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers. So Syracuse and Rochester are, I'm sorry, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo are a little different in that, especially Buffalo and Rochester, is that they're way at the top of the state near Canada, actually. They're like neighbors with Canada, which is why it gets a little bit colder up here. But also, Syracuse and Rochester, not to bring the whole conversation down, but just so people know, they have a lot of problems with poverty. Syracuse and Rochester were most recently, like as recent as last year, I'm not sure about the numbers right now, but they were #1 and #2 for child poverty in the country. So, and not even just in New York State, but in the country. So that means, yeah, like about half the kids live in poverty in Syracuse and Rochester. So like if you see two kids, one of them's probably poor. So it's, just good for people to know. And one other thing I'll say that people may not realize is that Rochester is like the literal home of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, freed former slave, advisor to Abraham Lincoln, is buried here. So it's kind of like, it's sad that Rochester is in the state that it's in when you think about the people. He is from here. Susan B. Anthony is from here, who was fighting for women's right to vote. He was fighting for blacks' right to vote. They are both buried here. So when you think about the state of this city today, it's just sad, when you think about the vision that they had for it. But that's just a little FYI for people to know because people don't know a lot about New York State. And like I was saying, where you are in Ithaca, Cornell University is there, which is an Ivy League school. It's basically like Harvard, you know what I mean? So get to know, just want people to know that they should get to know where they live, get to know your state, get to know statistics about it, facts about where it falls in the country. Because, there are things that I'm sure we could address everywhere. But anyway, back to happy talk. So you mentioned that you have some dogs. And so my next question is, if your pets could talk, what do you think they might say about you?
Well, my dogs, have lots of multiple sides to their personality. Like I'm sure a lot of folks out there who may or may not have any pets. Then I was able to fortunately rescue one from a really great shelter in the Connecticut border, actually. And then I found out that she had a brother who was still in a shelter in Puerto Rico and was able to work with getting him up here. And it's been really an interesting experience. But I think because of partially that and the troubles they've been through, they are pretty much like two big lap blankets. They just kind of lay on me whenever I'm home. And I'm very fortunate that they are very loving creatures. So I think one of the first things they would say is, I love you. And then second, probably, can I have food? Probably be the first two things out of both of their mouths.
Oh my gosh, so you adopted a dog all the way from Puerto Rico?
I did. I did not expect to be, as involved when I was looking for a dog, like some other people who might have be listening and went through COVID and feeling isolated. I was, and my partner and I decided to adopt a dog.
Wow.
And little did we know that this shelter in Connecticut had really far connections, and they were actually part of bringing dogs from Puerto Rico because there's so many that go through such hardship and don't get adopted. They actually bring them up to the northeastern United States to get adopted.
Wow. Okay, so I'm looking at these questions as I'm listening, and so this next one is a really funny one. This is a fun one. What would you do if you were invisible for a day?
Oh, that's such a fun question.
No.
Um,
My
I am
first
such
thought.
a goofball. I I want to say I have a lot of energy, like you talked about, and I'm a very playful, lighthearted person. So I would love to just play pranks on people with however 24 hours I had. I would definitely just gonna go mess with everyone I could, in whatever way
Yeah,
that could be.
that's funny. My first thought when I saw this was I would probably smack people in the face every time they try to eat some poisonous animal products. Like that, they would just be like smacked out of nowhere. They wouldn't know where it came from. But then going forward, anytime they tried to eat something that was bad for them, it would be like a reflex. They'd be like, "Wait a minute, somebody's gonna smack the ish out of me," right? And they wouldn't.
That's good behavior learning right there.
Yeah, that's how you teach, right? That'll learn them. No, well, a lot of people just don't know about the things that they're eating and that they might not be that good for them. So that's part of the reason why I started that organization. Also to let people know about things that were that are accidentally vegan that they might not even know that are vegan. Like we talked about that day, I remember because like we were giving away stuff and we had like you had like the skinny pop popcorn and people don't know that that popcorn the cheddar cheese flavor is actually vegan, so you can eat things like Oreos and things like that, or Cookie Crisp cereal, and people don't know that they're eating something without animal products in it because animal products are the things that are like worst for your body. So
Yeah.
so anyway, that's just I thought
That's
like part of our goal is just to educate people as well. Yeah.
I think that's like the one of the most important things that got me kind of connected when I saw Lisa in the group there, because I've been vegan for a little while, but my sister had children, and having adding in young kids to the mix is like a whole new landscape about eating for tons of reasons, but also including like eating with people who are not patient, eating with children, and eating healthy. And I think like the education and just like having things available has been so helpful for my sister and her kids to kind of go on this healthy and plant-based journey, that
Mhm.
I just connected with that right away when I saw that was what your organization's all about.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and so it is about being healthy, and then at the same time, just with some of that stuff, we want people to know that it's not going to be like so hard for you if you know that you can still enjoy some things that are familiar. You know what I mean? So, and any way you look at it, I think when you're eating stuff without animal products, you're gonna have it's gonna be a better choice in the end than that thing you would eat
Mm.
that has all that fat, cholesterol, dairy, all that stuff that just is not really good for your body. But okay, so and this next question though, just keeping it moving along is and I like this one too.
Sure.
What is the last TV show you binge watched?
So the last TV show I binge watched, that's also a great question. Because I do kind of like to watch some action stuff. My video and taste in TV is kind of all over the place. Um, but I think the last one I binge watched was um, on Netflix. It's Carrie Russell is kind of like in the White House, and she is um, like kind of negotiating. So it's only like
Oh
one season. I've only been to like 3 or 4 episodes, but it's really good.
yeah, I saw that. I just watched that yesterday. I just started watching that yesterday. I got like to the middle of the second episode where she goes and she becomes like the ambassador in London. I think it's called
Yep, that's the one.
the Diplomat. Oh yeah, that was pretty good. That was good. Like I watch a bunch of nonsense. So no, that was different for me.
It was the one.
I watch stuff that's like completely like fictional, like never happened in real life. Like real life to me is like sometimes I don't want to see a bunch of stuff on the screen. I can go walk out in the street and see for real. But so that one's a little different. But I watch like, so the last thing I remember I binge watched was like Cobra Kai, like the Karate Kid, that Karate Kid series,
Cobra Kai.
like,
I know it.
yeah, and I watched like the last season that I watched in like a weekend. Like that's oh, the other thing I watched recently too. I don't know if you ever saw that movie The Best Man like years ago, but they did that new one where it like shows them now, and I forget what it's called. Like I'm forgetting the names of everything, but I watched that too, and like I think like a couple weeks. The one that was in like a weekend was Cobra Kai. Why?
I wholeheartedly agree, because maybe a bit of nostalgia, but I actually never I didn't get to fully watching the first one. So I think when the TV show came out on Netflix, because like I was kind of just missed the edge. It was really cool for me to do that. And I did karate as a kid. Like I kind of have a good memory attached to doing karate, but that show is definitely a good mix of, I think, like nostalgia, but like action and a little over the top. So like you said, it definitely isn't real life, but it's really catchy. So I do think that's a great show for people to watch too.
Yeah, yeah. And this nostalgia was definitely part of it. And like I'll watch stuff that's like action stuff. Like I mean, I'll watch like all the Avengers stuff and all that. You know what I mean? Like I will watch somebody flying through the sky that's a superhero that has nothing to do with me walking out on the street and seeing somebody like committing crimes in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Because I could literally like walk out and have the experience. but
Yeah.
so. So yeah, so that's a good one. And then the last movie I watched, just because I watched this recently, was Creed. Was Creed 3, and it was kind of the same thing because that
Oh,
nostalgia will get me. It'll be like the nostalgia or something like that's real fake fiction. But so because of those
yep.
Rocky movies I saw, and then so Creed 3, that last one, I watched that and I get that like type of feeling from a I don't really like I have no idea why boxing is an actual sport to tell you the truth, but sometimes I like to watch the story. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know
I don't
why.
want to attend. Yeah, I know what you mean though. Like I have a I appreciate sports, so even though I don't get all the rules about boxing, I appreciate that little competition, and you get involved and you want to root for someone, and like it definitely takes you out of your head, and like a good movie, and then you get really into the characters. So it does look like a really good movie. It looks really exciting.
Yeah. And then it's funny because like a long time ago someone told me that like guys like to watch boxing because they feel like it teaches them how to fight better. Like I don't know if that's accurate, but it was funny because there was a recent boxing match that was really big. I don't know if you just were paying attention when they just had that Javante Davis fight with Ryan Garcia like a week ago or something. And I was watching the highlights from that because I had seen some stuff about it online. And then, so he knocked him out by punching him in the liver. And apparently, like if you hit someone in the liver or certain body parts in the body, it will cause like their legs not to work and like they'll lose their balance and all that stuff. I thought to myself, well, gosh, I wish if I had known that all these years, I would have been punching everybody in the liver anytime I needed to just to get to the end.
So maybe you did learn something. I guess you did learn a little about how to fight then.
Yeah,
It came
so
true.
maybe that was accurate. You know what he said. Maybe it does teach you how to fight. But anyway, so not that I want to be fighting, by the way, but I've had some instances over the years. Of course, we all have. But so the next sentence or next question here is, oh, okay. Tell me your life story in exactly one sentence.
um, I always keep trying new things, and that has got me to where I am today.
Oh, that's good.
because
Mm,
yeah, I get it's hard to to sum up like everything, but like I've said, I've talked about how I like keep moving. I always have like a new passion or hobby like every couple weeks that I change into um and keep learning and just trying to kind of like keep building up my life with like the best things I can and try to be living my best life. And I think, everyone has like ups and downs and all that, we all do, but I think I still try to, have the best time and just enjoy everything I can as much as possible. So I guess I just keep kind of trying new things and seeing what works.
yeah, well, that's good. There's some advice in there too, I think. You know what I mean? Try new things and see what works. Because it's important, for people to think they can try new things. Sometimes you get kind of stuck in a rut, you know what I mean? But so this last question I'm going to ask you, I think is going to be the best one to close with. Since you're a musician and into music, what is your favorite song?
Oh, that's a good one. Excuse me. There's like a cliche thing about musicians and people in music like making like top 10 lists or top 5 lists. Um,
Mhm.
or because it's so hard to say like an absolute favorite. Um, but whenever kind of I joke around and make these kind of lists with my friends or people I'm talking with, I always kind of think about like the beginning because sometimes like when you hear a good song for the first time, it's like so much more amazing because it's the first time you've heard it. And I think that's how you know like a really good song. Some songs kind of have to grow on you, and that happens. But Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon Garfunkel is when I heard that, I still have memories of hearing that for the first time. And just like, even when I was like 7, just being like, whoa, this is so good. And Paul Simon is part of why I became a guitar player. So it still resonates with me as far as like being one of the first like powerful music moments I've had. So I'd have to go with classic Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Do you have a favorite artist?
Um, I really like bands, a bunch of bands, but the Thermals are kind of a little bit older. They're kind of more around like 10 or so years ago, and they're not making as much music nowadays. But they're one of my favorites that I just love, like pop rock listening to around the house.
Mhm.
So everyone should definitely go check them out if you don't know them.
Yeah, it's funny because there was there's a podcast called like the R&B Money Podcast, and I watched that one day. And at the end of every podcast, they ask people like, "What are your top 5 songs and what are your top 5 musicians?" But it's R&B though, so it's R&B. So when I watched that, I actually thought of mine, which would be R&B, but I'm trying to think of what it was, and I had them in order and everything. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for me R&B
Okay.
would be Mary J. Blige, Lauren Hill, Prince, um, and a group. I don't know who sings the song, but my dad used to love this song called "Always and Forever," and I want to say it might be Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, but I have no idea. But everyone will know that song. It's like a real old song, like might be Motown or something. I don't know, but I like that song, and my dad always loved that song. So that whoever sings that song, and then number one was Michael Jackson. So that's my list.
Ooh. That's such a
Yeah.
great list. I mean, I could listen to Prince, I think, all day, or anybody could listen to Prince all day because every mood is covered in Prince's like discography. No matter what your mood, there's like a Prince album for
And,
that, which is
and when you
awesome. And I
talk,
love him. And
yeah, I was gonna say, and when you talk about musician, like he was like a true musician because he played so many instruments. You know what I mean? And he was like, he was doing, he was basically out there doing stuff live, and where as opposed to more people just like sounding like there's a lot of production behind it, like studio production stuff like that. So he always had that different kind of sound. that one.
Yeah, and some of the more guitar work that he did is also equally amazing. And like you said, produced, not produced, or with guitar you can kind of modify that sound a little bit. But yeah, he's just so talented, singing, songwriting, playing instruments. And Lauryn Hill, I mean, her voice is just so phenomenal. So there's a lot. You got a great list. I'm really impressed.
Oh,
That's a great list.
thank, thank you. Yeah, sometimes I feel like Lauren doesn't get the credit she deserves because people think she only put out that one album. Yes, she did, but that was a whole good album. You know what I mean? That was like the whole album was good, like not just a couple songs. And she did a lot of stuff with the Fugees before that. When her album came out, I knew that was going to be a good album because she had already done good stuff. I mean, she was in even if you take Six Sister Act 2, she always just was talented. You know what I mean? So anyway, but that's my
Yeah,
list
yeah.
that I
Great,
wasn't asked.
great list. It's a great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for joining me today. Hopefully, you'll come back for future episodes. And why don't you give out your band name, your social media so people can find you and hear that if they want to as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So I play with the band Cell 63. You can find us on
Um,
Bandcamp, Cell 63. So it's bandcamp.cell63.com. And there's a free album up there for download, as well as I think a song from a CD that we did a bunch of other groups from the Hudson Valley also worked on, that was album fundraiser. You can find that again on Bandcamp. And it's great because you can just listen to it, or you can download if you want to make it more accessible during your day. And social media too, you can find us on Instagram. And I really appreciate you having me on, Lisa, and starting this. I think a podcast is really great because you can kind of just like pop on, be doing your thing, and hearing us kind of talk in the background, and hopefully have a little entertainment during the day.
Yeah, people will see as we go along. Let me just put that out there. Like I was telling Mary before we started, to everyone listening, that this is our first one, our first episode, our first podcast, and so we're kind of like trying to work all the kinks out and get our ish together. You know what I mean? So next time as we go along, it will definitely get better. So we just want people to keep continuing to join us and get our message that we're trying to spread. And I'm definitely gonna post your music on our social media. And our website, like I said, is equalvalueforall.wordpress.com. So you'll be able to find it there as well once this is posted. And I also want to give a shout out to Will and Clevette. There are other board members who work with us kind of behind the scenes as we try to get everything up and going. And to anyone out there who may want to donate to us and help us with our mission of educating people about health and wellness and giving people free food, because that's basically what we do, is that we are going to be getting our tax exempt status. It's currently pending. And so if you are eligible, people, they will be able to get a credit on their taxes for donating to a nonprofit. So, and we'll have that posted as soon as we find out about that status, and it should be retroactive from the day that we filed. So by the time this is posted, you should be eligible to get the status. Um,
And maybe we'll have a theme
and
song if I can come up with one in the time being.
um, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, let's not forget about that because Mary, I go through, I go kind of fast and I'm sending emails and I'm giving updates and so something might slip my mind, so I'm gonna count on you to remember.
It's a deal.
Okay, and then yeah, okay, good. And then yeah, so definitely, like I was saying, come back for future episodes as well as we figure all this out. Okay, so three things before we get out of here that I want everyone to remember. And number one, I want you to remember that you have exactly the same value as anyone else on this planet. Number two, don't hate, participate. We all work together. We can all get to where we're trying to go. Number three, the key to solving inequality, in my opinion, is not begging others to see you as equal. That's ridiculous. The key to solving inequality is reminding others, no matter who it may be, that they are not more than equal. So, with that, I'm going to thank everyone for listening And I want to ask everyone to remember to like, share, and subscribe, because that way, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll know when we drop a new episode. Okay, and thanks again, Mary. We'll be in touch and talking like usual. And thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Take
Okay,
care.
I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.